Joining us now with more insight is millennial financial expert Stefanie O'Connell. And you know firsthand, Stefanie, the financial struggles that can come when it comes to your health.
Absolutely. I am a textbook millennial. I am 33 years old. I'm self-employed, so I haven't had a job that came with health insurance and retirement packages and a consistent paycheck each week. And what the implications for that for my financial health and then my physical health were pretty major. I've relied a lot on clinics and low-cost services through other providers like Planned Parenthood for many years when I was uninsured or underinsured. And even when I did have insurance, there was constantly this stress of what is the cost actually gonna be after my insurance? So last year I got into a bike accident and people called an ambulance and I turned that ambulance away because I was so fearful of what that bill would actually look like and what the implications would be for my financial life if I accepted that care.
Can you talk a little bit about how you practice wellness and you would go to bar classes 5 times a week and not have health insurance and how that's, similar to other millennials today?
Exactly. This distinction between having comprehensive health care, which is going to see your primary care provider and going to have your wellness visits and getting your eyes checked and your dental every year or every 6 months. And then there's this trend of health and wellness, and that is the bar class, that is the diet, that is the mindfulness. And that stuff is absolutely important, but it's certainly not a substitute for having primary care.
But I'm also curious, how do you instill that sense of importance to the millennial generation? Because I was listening to these interviews that Leslie did, and people were saying, well, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't need health insurance. As a small business owner, I actually offer completely employer-paid health insurance. And the reason we did that is because when people had to even contribute 5% of the cost of their monthly premium, a subset of our millennial employees wouldn't even do it. We do an employer match for our 401k, which is just free money, and the millennial employees won't do it. How do you instill that this is a worthwhile investment, more so perhaps than the bar classes?
Yeah, and I think this is just part of the reality of a life stage. When you're in your 20s and 30s, which is where this generation is right now, there is a sense of this is gonna last forever. But we're getting to that point where the oldest millennials are approaching their 40s. Things like their health declining at 27, as we see in this study, that's real. Hypertension, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, the implications of that are just now starting to really manifest. And I think it's serving as a wake-up call. But it's hard to create that same sense of urgency when you're 22, have $30,000 in student loan debt, and you're telling me I have to pay more for health insurance? I don't even have enough to pay my rent.
Can you talk about the possible financial fallout of this looming millennial health crisis?
So the implications are really big. Millennials are the largest segment of the workforce right now in the United States. If you have people who are not able to work at full productivity or be able to work at all because of their declining health, we're gonna see major implications of that in the economy and obviously for personal individual finances as well.
I read a statistic actually that currently, because of the way unemployment numbers are tallied, millennials have more than double, 16.2% are considered unemployed because they are freelance and they are kind of doing their independent job. So they're gonna have less and less access to these resources by that.
Exactly. I think this is really important to come back to this idea that the existing infrastructure that used to come with employment is increasingly falling away. Whether that's a result of maybe if you're in a rural area and manufacturing and that good union job with all those benefits and your healthcare is now going overseas and that's not available to you, or if you live in an urban area where maybe you're making ends meet by freelancing, by contract work, by gig economy work, that is 1099. That doesn't come with the regular paycheck. That doesn't come with the benefits. And so the onus is now increasingly on the individual to put that financial infrastructure and support system in place. But I will say, I really don't think we can ignore the context of millennials coming of age. We have a really booming economy, unemployment's really low, stock market performance is really high, but when it comes to actual real life wages and the money that I'm taking home in my paycheck, those adjusted for inflation, millennials are making 20% less than baby boomers at the same life stage. And we cannot ignore that reality paired with the rising cost of education, healthcare, housing, and other essential needs that's created this strain on this generation in particular.